By the way, the fourth and final stage of the trap of debt is what I call the lock stage. Now, the lock stage is technically what you would call the stage of desperation. This is the stage where, unlike in the other three stages where we've been putting in efforts to try and cover up for your financial mess, in the fourth stage, the lock stage, your efforts hit a dead end. You reach a wall. You do not see any light ahead of you. Previously, you've been trying to borrow from here to pay here and borrow from the other place to come and pay here so that your lenders can believe that you're doing well. Then eventually you started struggling with all of them. But because you still had avenues of borrowing, you continued to borrow. Now in the last stage, the lock stage, you have no one to give you money. Every lender does not want to listen to you. All your friends, because you've borrowed from all of them. You've borrowed from everyone in your phone book and defaulted while at it. So these days in the last stage, no one wants to pick your call. No one wants to be associated with you. All your friends do not want to pick your calls. They are avoiding you. The reason why it's the stage of desperation is because now you do not have any other avenue of trying to cover up for the mess that you are in. Because initially in the third stage, the stage of addiction, and even the second stage of multiplication, you continue to borrow from here to pay here, to borrow from the other place to pay the other place. Now in the fourth stage, the final stage, all that effort is watered down because you have hit a wall. There is no one willing to give you money. There is no one willing to be associated with you. And a lot of time now you are left on your own. In this stage, you also begin to dodge calls from lenders. You begin to dodge your lenders. If they visit you, you want to avoid them. If they call you, you don't want to pick their calls because you have promised them and failed to fulfill the promises that you made in the past. So you look at their phone calls and you're wondering, what do I say this time round? This is the time when you begin to use and overuse the excuse messages. You see those messages when someone calls you and you tell them, sorry, I'm in a meeting, I'll call you back. So these days you find yourself telling them that you are in church, you'll call them back even when it's in the middle of the night because you're in a hurry to dismiss them. This is the time when you avoid a lot of those calls. Now what you do not know is that every time you avoid the calls from lenders, you're creating a bigger problem. You are allowing the lenders to engage a stronger gear in chasing after you, and this makes the pressure on you higher, and this escalates your challenges. This makes your problem even bigger. But it is a characteristic of this stage for so many people, wanting to avoid lenders. Now in this stage also, you may have a feeling that lenders are beginning to be unfair to you because as you try to find someone to lend you money and no one wants to lend you money, even the mainstream lenders that used to give you money, now they decline your borrowings. You begin to feel like lenders are unfair to you, that no one wants to understand you. Now, in this last stage also, due to the desperation that comes with it, sadly, it is in this stage that people begin to misinterpret the denial of credit and the fact that no one wants to be associated with you or no one wants to pick your calls. People begin to misinterpret this as rejection. And it is in this last stage that sadly, some people choose to take their own lives because life begins to lose meaning. They begin to think that the world has left them, that the world does not want to be associated with them. And that is how then some of them choose to end their own lives. That's how dangerous the fourth stage can become. Now in this fourth stage also, a lot of investment and savings get liquidated. People who are saving for retirement in a pension scheme, this is the stage where you get convinced to break into your pension account and get the portion that you can get. Where you've been told if you wanted to access the money earlier than retirement, then you could get maybe 100% of your portion and 50% of your employer's portion. This is the stage where you begin to get convinced that things will sort themselves out in the days to come. Break into this account, get some little money so that you can cool off pressures from lenders. Now in this fourth stage, those who had tried to save some money, by this time they are convinced that they need to break into these accounts and they want to use the money to cool off some pressures. In this stage also, those who had signed up for insurance policies begin to get tempted to discontinue the insurance premium payment so that they can have at least a little more money for them to even survive. In this stage, if you're lucky to still be having income, that income is a drop in the ocean compared to the debts that you have, compared to the repayments that you need to be making periodically. So this is a stage of finality. It's a stage where you want to remind yourself that you've actually walked through the mess and gotten yourself to a level where you cannot ignore that you have a problem. In this stage also, those that had properties and had borrowed and used property to secure their debt, this is the stage where if you are lucky to still be having your property, you get auctioned. Because you've given all stories in the previous stages to your lenders, you continue to default. You've tried to borrow from this other person to give to this other lender, you've now defaulted because no one is willing to give you money anymore. So then they have to come for the property. So this is a stage where you find yourself getting auctioned. It is also in this last stage that tension at the family level begins to be felt. Now, in the other previous stages, it is possible that someone can afford to escape the reality of what they are facing from affecting their families. But in the lock stage, things begin to get clearer to your spouse, to your children, that you are struggling. You know, in the previous stages, you may have afforded to lie to your family that you're still doing well. Sometimes people move through all these stages from introduction to lock stage and their spouses do not know that they're struggling. But at the lock stage, then it comes out clear that you're actually struggling. Now, it is even more shameful because you were trying to avoid the shame in the previous stages by not disclosing what you are going through to your spouses or to other family members. Now, in the last stage, you will be forced to open up in a more shameful manner because this time around, you're not able to meet family needs. You're not able to do the basics that a family expects you to do, especially if you're the breadwinner of that family. And so if you are avoiding the shame associated with you disclosing the struggles that you are going through at the lock stage, the struggles show themselves. They come out by themselves, and in many cases they come out in a more shameful manner than what you were avoiding in the previous stages. So if you are in a position to disclose as early as possible to the family members that matter to you, then you can take advantage before you hit the lock stage. Nonetheless, there is still hope. The lock stage is not a stage of condemnation. It's not a stage that one cannot recover from. With the right focus and determination and dedication, people have actually recovered from the lock stage. This is a stage that requires a lot of discipline for you to come out of. This is not like the introduction stage where you simply can put in measures here and there. The lock stage requires a lot of focus, a lot of determination, a lot of effort for you to come up. Remember, at this point, you've already lost a lot of confidence from your lenders, and so no one really wants to listen to you. But again, with the right focus and with the right help, because this is the stage where many people are not able to handle it by themselves. Remember, you've had all the other three stages giving you opportunities to handle this thing by yourself. In the lock stage, this is where if you realize you cannot do it on your own, then you lift your hand and look for help. Look for professionals to help you. This is the stage where most people will visit at the debt clinic. Many people wait until it is too late, until they hit the lock stage. But again, as I've said, this stage is not a condemnation. I have seen people recover from this stage, and therefore you too can recover from it. Look, it's just been a journey of how the trap of debt looks like. You now know where you are. Whether you are in the introduction stage, whether you are in the multiplication stage, in the addiction stage, or in the lock stage, now you know yourself. But beyond knowing yourself, put measures in place. Begin the journey of coming up, the journey of regaining sanity, because life, the other side of the fence, is so beautiful. You can do better. Be sure to subscribe, and this is By the Way.